hello. Thank you so much for joining me for another Sunday Afternoons with Reverend Lucretia. I'm so glad to have you here. So the name of this talk is Slow Your Butt Down, and the song is Rolling River God. If you would like to listen to the song before you hear the talk, just go ahead and click on the link below. It will be down in the description box, so go ahead and do that if you'd like to. So we're going to talk about the fact that change takes time. Life is not a race. That's one thing I've learned for sure. Slow is real. That's one of the, my good friends has that as an email signature line, slow is real, and I absolutely believe that to be true. Change is hard. You often have to take one step forward and two steps backward. Impatience just comes from a lack of trust and a lack of faith, and we're going to talk about that today as well. We're going to talk about the fact that everything happens in God's time. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, not yet seen. That's Hebrews 11:1. So let me just go over the words of the song for you so that you can understand where I'm coming from. Rolling River God is written by Nicole Nordman. Little stones are smooth, only once the water passes through. So I am a stone, rough and grainy still, trying to reconcile this river's chill. But when I close my eyes and feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, and change takes time. And when the sunset comes, my prayer would be this one, that you might pick me up and notice that I am just a little smoother in your hand. Sometimes raging wild, sometimes swollen high, never have I known this river dry. The deepest part of you is where I want to stay and feel the sharpest edges wash away. So what I know about change after 37 years of being committed to this process is that impatience doesn't make things go faster. Just because you want it a lot doesn't mean that it's going to come quicker. As I said, I've been on this journey for 37 years of setting the intention to turn my life and my will over to God and trusting that it will happen the way it is supposed to. When I make decisions in a hurry, they are never good. Sometimes I make decisions for the wrong reasons because I am doing it in a hurry. I've learned that the things that really matter in my life take time. The best relationships that I have come over years and years. It takes a long time to let people have their guards come down and to let people know that you can trust them and they can trust you. That all takes time. You can't rush that process. Some changes not only take time, but they are continuous. So you have to keep working on them every single day, and it's a process. The character defects that I've been working on for all of these years, I'll be working on forever. And so, as I said, one step forward and one step backward. Significant change comes from daily habits that happen over a long period of many years. So in an article written by Kas Sukat called Patience, Who Has Time for It? He talks about the fact that culture creates an environment where we want to move faster, and it really depends on where you are and the time that you live in. So in the past, people had more patience. Farmers knew that you need to plant a seed and you needed to wait. Patience was a virtue. Patience is not so much a virtue anymore. In the University of Arizona study that was done in 2009, 300,000 phone calls were analyzed to a crisis center, and what they found up was within 2 minutes, 52% of those people hung up. So even though they were calling a crisis center and they were in trouble and they needed help, they just couldn't hang on any longer than 2 minutes. And what was so silly about it was that they would then hang up and call back, and of course that would put them all the way at the back of the line, and that wasn't helpful at all. But it just comes to show even more strongly that the more anxious you are, and the more you're feeling anxiety and stress, the more impatient you are, the less ability you have to hang in there. So in another study done in 2012 at the University of Massachusetts, 6.7 million internet users were studied. And what they were studying was how long they would wait for a song to download. And what they found is that a significant number stopped after 2 seconds. After 5 seconds, 25% of the 6.7 million users gave up. And after 10 seconds, 50% of the users gave up. So environment pushes you to expect things to happen faster. The person who did this talk was from Pakistan, and he said that there they only have 12 hours of electricity, so it would take 3 days to download a song, and that the Pakistani people have just become used to the fact that change takes time, that waiting for something to download takes time, that patience is all about waiting. And they learned that you can't speed things up. They have a phrase that they use all the time saying the fruit of patience is always sweet. He says that since he moved here, he's much more impatient. The experience he had before was to wait and stay calm, but now that he's here, people are all sped up. He says young people don't have the experience of patience, and so developing patience starts with the realization that not everything is under our control. So people want what they want when they want it, and they think they can control everything, and that's just not true. He says we must all work as individuals to remind ourselves that we have to wait, and the more that we have to wait, the more we will stretch ourselves, and the better we will learn how to stay calm, especially when we're feeling anxious. So in another article by Joseph Sadat called Aha Moments Through Slowing Down, they did brain research on what they called vigilance decrement. So vigilance decrement is the thought that there is only a limited amount of creativity and concentration available to us as humans on every single day, and that it can get used up. And so when they did a study of people that had to do a menial task, just punching a button on a computer for 50 minutes, what they found was they could chart that the amount of attention went straight down over the 50 minutes. It never got better, it only went down. You could see it just like a mountain going straight down. But for the same group that they split, after a third of the study, they were able to have 1 minute break, just 1 minute break. And after 2/3 into doing this, they were able to have another 1 minute break. So very, very short little microbites. But what they found was that their attention span did not go down. And so they found that it's called activate, stop, reactivate. So if you activate your brain and then stop, even for just 1 minute, and then reactivate your brain, you will go back to being a place at high concentration. So they talk about the fact that you need to stop when you run up against a place where you're not focused anymore and you can't think clearly. You need to stop. And they do talk quite a bit about meditation. They said it's about being patient and not pushing through as if you are a machine. So Winston Churchill had a non-negotiable contract that he took a nap every single day. Stephen Jobs said that when he had meetings that were really important, he did walking meetings because that way it would lower the blood pressure and it would increase the oxygen to the brain, but it also slowed people down. Timothy Ferriss, who wrote The 4-Hour Work Week, Tribe of Mentors, studied hundreds of executives, and literally 100% of them did daily meditation. He said when you reach a blockade, you need to slow down. So the human attention span, it turns out, is 8 seconds. Not that that's not disturbing enough, but the other piece is that the goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. Now that to me was really, really, really disturbing. So, in another article called The Importance of Patience in Everyday Life that was written by Leo Carver, he talks about the fact that patience is a skill that can be learned, but it needs constant nurturing. He says, problems arise when what you think and do doesn't seem to produce the immediate results. He said, focus on the word seem, because again, you're getting results. It's just that they're not instant and you're just not seeing them right away, but they're actually happening. He says, every heartfelt intention and desire is met with support from the universe. Patience is the ability to not be troubled by life's changes, delays, or other undesirables. It's the ability to maintain stillness in the midst of disappointment. He says you need to practice self-awareness when you're feeling really impatient and ask yourself what arises. Where do you feel the stress in your body? Listen to your thoughts, take note of your emotions. He says the simple act of looking within can be healing. Use awareness to maintain calm. See moments of self-reflection as an opportunity to strengthen yourself in grace. So Wayne Dyer talks about patience quite a bit. He says that as humans, we are all impatient. I want what I want, and I want it now. He says when you unite yourself with your divine source, you are never separate, and you will know it will provide for you in exactly the right way and time as it is supposed to. He says it's about detaching from the outcome, Having infinite patience, letting go of the need to make something happen as you want it to. The idea of knowing that divine intelligence works in exactly the right order, preference, time it is supposed to, that the ego hurries along the divine intelligence, and that's not healthy at all. He says it's okay to have goals, but don't insist that they show up exactly when and the way that you want them to. The key is to relaxing about what you want with a certainty of outcome, that you know that what you're wanting to have happen is going to happen. If you know it's going to happen and you can relax about it, then you can let go of the need to force the solutions. He says it comes down to faith and trust. So in A Course in Miracles, it says, if you have uncertainty about the outcome, patience is easy. If you are uncertain about the outcome, then you won't be able to be patient. Infinite patience, trusting in God, is what is needed. So Patience is Power is another article that was written by Sister Ocean. It's on a website that is called the Global Buddhist Door, which I highly recommend. They're talking about the Dhammapada, which you know is their scripture, their ancient scripture, and they talk about Khanti, which is one of the virtues that you're always attaining to, and that is patience, forbearance, acceptance, tolerance, the act of allowing something. I thought that was really perfect, that it's an act of allowing everything to happen exactly the way it's supposed to. He says it's about falling into the experience of unity and perfect peace, the intimate embodied understanding of impermanence, being open to life as it presents itself, neither clinging to the pleasant nor rejecting the unpleasant, living with a wonder, understanding things will change but not knowing how or when. Khanti power is exercised daily to make you stronger. He says, wanting to know is a dead-end path, for patience is found on the unknown road of paradox. It is the soulmate of compassion, born out of extreme honesty, raised on faith. So Pema Chödrön says, patience is an enormously wonderful and supportive and even magical practice. It's a way of completely changing the fundamental human habit of trying to resolve things by going either to the right or to the left, calling things right or calling things wrong. It's the way to develop courage, the way to find out what life is really all about. In The Perfection of Patience, which is on a website called Dakini Meditation by Dr. Adam Smith and Kelly Lindsay, they say patience is pausing and getting still, being really honest with ourselves about how we feel, creating space for our experience, responding instead of reacting, cultivating the courage to sit with discomfort, discord, or disagreement. Patience is an antidote to anger and aggression. The Revealing Word says, patience is an attitude of mind characterized by poise, inner calmness, and quiet endurance, especially in the face of trying circumstances. Patience has its foundation in faith and is perfected only in those who have the unwavering faith in God. Here are some of my favorite scriptural references to patience and change. Ecclesiastes 3, so you know that's the one that has the song about everything there is a season and a time under heaven. But the part that I like the most is chapter 3:11. It says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. In Samuel 10:6, it says, The Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them, and you will be changed into a different person. This talks about how God's Spirit is working in us to change us through time. James 1:2-8 says, Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete. Colossians 1:11 says, Being strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, so that you may have great endurance and patience. Colossians 3:12, Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And James 5:7, Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. And we know that the waiting for the Lord part metaphysically means that we come to a place where we are in perfect alignment with his will for us. So Philippians 3:12 says, "Not that I have already obtained all this, or have already arrived at my goal, but that I press on to take hold of that for which God took hold of me." So we understand that God has already got it all planned. He's in charge of all of the details. He knows what he needs. He's figured out all of the ways. We're not in charge of knowing the how or the when or the why of it. We're just in charge of putting one foot in front of each other and keeping going forward. So the last one is that the Epistle of James, which says, "The trying of your faith work is patience, but let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." So in an article by Amy Moran that was written in Forbes magazine, it says, change doesn't happen overnight. It happens in 5 stages. And it talks about the fact that change is a process and that we need to go through all 5 stages before we get to the end of it. And the last stage is maintenance, just continuing to work on it. So here are the 5 steps. The first is pre-contemplative. That's where other people think you need to change, but you don't really get it yet. So other people may be telling you that there's some part of you that you need to work on. Number 2 is contemplation. You recognize the consequences of not changing, but you're not really ready and you're not sure that the risk is worth the benefit. Number 3 is preparation. You put your plan for place established, you put out all the details, you think of how you're going to do it, you plan it out. And number 4 is the action, where you actually put the steps of the plan in place and start working on it. And number 5 is maintenance, which is the daily work to strengthen the new habits. So while I was studying all this, I was trying to understand why it is so hard for us to make change and why it is that it seems like we're fighting ourselves. So I found an article in Psychology Today by Dr. Jennifer L. Kunst, and it's called "There's Only Way to Change Slowly Over Time." And she talks about change. She says, "I think one of the reasons why lasting change takes so much time is that there is an enormous pressure in the human psyche to maintain the status quo. The mind is like a rubber band. You can easily stretch it temporarily, but it will snap back to its resting position. We resist change. People crave the familiar. We take refuge in what we know. There is a basic principle in the deep layers of our unconscious mind that says sameness equals safety and change equals danger. That is why it is so hard to break a habit, even if we know it's not good for us. So the work of change requires us to overcome a misconception. We believe that we need the very thing that we are trying to change. This could be as obvious as the alcoholic believing that he needs the drink, or the abused woman needing to be in a relationship with the abusive man. It can be more subtle, though, such as the depressed man who thinks he needs to stay depressed just so that he can be cared for, or the worried woman who is believing that she has to worry as a way of keeping herself and her family safe. Often these beliefs are misconceptions, as you just saw. Those don't actually make sense, but they are often very tightly held on to, and we can only detach from them bit by bit as we find a better reality to attach to, also bit by bit. So it involves 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. The nature of change: each step forward is a loss of the old ways, and it involves grief and pain. Each step forward is a defiance of the misconception that sameness equals safety. Each step forward is an act of faith in the idea that change might actually be a good thing. Change takes time. Time happens one day at a time. It is a process. There is a Turkish proverb that says, "Patience is the key to paradise." And there's a Chinese proverb that says, "Do not fear going forward slowly, fear only to stand still." So Maureen Braley, in a reflection book that I read every day, says, "I learned to be patient, allowing the passage of time to slowly offer me new perspectives. I recognize my courage and my willingness to walk into the wilderness, and I give myself credit to do whatever it takes to keep on going." Why Slow Change is Better Than Fast Change is an article that was written by Dan Erickson. He's the author of 2 books that I highly recommend. One is A Train Called Forgiveness, and the other is Finding Your Own Way Back Home. Fast change isn't usually the best change. When you let change come slowly, it's more likely to stick. The faster the change, the harder the resistance. Attempting to change ourselves quickly leads to a crash or a breakdown. The process of change must be respected. We rush due to impatience, insecurity, and fear. And he says that there are 4 fears that cause us to rush, and they are not being good enough, not having enough, fear of what others think, and fear of losing everything. He says long-term change comes with slow lifestyle changes, not crash diets or sudden bursts of energy. We must find a new path. Let's call that new path hope. You need to have a new mindset. Success must not be based on comparisons to others, but only on your own improvements. Walk slowly on the path of hope, and you will be more likely to find lasting change. There is less resistance to change when you take it slowly and in small increments. So my dad had an expression that he used that I remember really well, saying, "Don't push the river." Letting go and letting God serves me much better than trying to force solutions. Trust and faith in the outcome is how I live my life. I do a lot. I'm focused on a lot of tasks, but I stop always to smell the roses. I meditate and I pray and I stay deep in the river of God. I play with my kitty. When he pushes a ball across the floor, I know that's my time to get up and focus somewhere else. I'm a better person now, and my edges have become smoother. And as I relax in the knowing that all is in divine order, I invite you all to slow down, take a deep breath, have a cup of tea, look out the window, relax in the faith that all is in divine order. As the song says, "But when I close my eyes and feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, and change takes time." And so it is. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful for you. If you liked it, please push the subscribe button or the like button so that you can be notified whenever we have new information coming out. Many blessings to you.